A few weeks ago, I did a collaborative video with a Linux community member and fellow YouTuber, BigPod. We did a video on how you create Arch Linux packages. And today I wanted to take that discussion a little further. How do you get your Arch Linux packages in the AUR, the Arch User Repository? Now, I have packaged 3 things, and I've got it in the AUR. I've done this a few weeks ago, and it was a learning process. I made some mistakes along the way, and still learning a lot. I'm by no means an expert on packaging things for Arch Linux, but I was able to get 3 things successfully packaged and placed in the AUR. And I've got several more things I would like to package and get in the AUR, and I thought I would do one of them today on camera so you guys can kind of see the process, because the documentation on doing these package builds and getting them in the AUR isn't that great. I mean, it's good documentation, but it's a little confusing. Really, sometimes you just need somebody to walk you through the process, and that's what I'm going to do today. So let me start off by showing you exactly what I plan to package in the AUR today. So if I go over to my GitLab, I have my GitLab at gitlab.com/dwt1. There you will find several repositories and personal projects here. It actually only lists like 10, but I have more than that. So if I go to my projects, click on your projects, this is all my GitLab repositories. So I have my builds of DWM and ST, and I've already packaged those. Those are actually in the AUR. If you do a search for DWM-DistroTube-Git, and st-distrotube-git, you will find those in the AUR already. I put those in there several weeks back. And I also have my shell color scripts also in the AUR, which a lot of you guys have been asking me about. So that is what you guys are seeing every time I open a terminal. You know, I get these color scripts that are chosen at random that run. It's basically a collection of these terminal color scripts, and it's set to generate one at random every time I open a terminal. So that is what the shell color scripts is, and again, you can search for that in the AUR or just do yay-S shell-color-scripts. But I have several other things I want to get put in the AUR. I want to go ahead and package up my build of dmenu, my build of tabbed, and my build of the surf browser. Today, I think I'm going to go ahead and package my dmenu build and get it in the AUR. I'm going to hold off a little bit on tabbed and especially on surf. Surf, I still got a little bit of patching. There's a few things I want to add to surf before I place it in the AUR. It's not quite ready, but dmenu is squared away and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and package dmenu-distrotube-git will be the name of the program. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and git clone my dmenu-distrotube repository. So let me go to a terminal here, and I'm going to run this command here, git clone, and then the location of my dmenu-distrotube repository. This is going to be using SSH. That way I don't have to enter my password, my username and password every time I'm doing a push or a pull or anything, just for sake of this video. But you could git clone it with just the HTTP address as well, if you'd prefer to do that. Anyway, you git clone your repository. We're assuming that you're packaging something that is a Git repository, by the way. And now that I have dmenu-distrotube, that particular repository, on my system, I'm going to cd into it. I'm going to run an ls. Now, to package this for the AUR, what you really need is 2 files. You need a package build, pkgbuild, and you need a source info file, srcinfo. And the first one you need to create is the package build. Now, on your system, there is an example package build that you can copy and then edit that thing. If you wanted to, what you would do is you would copy /user share pacman, and then I believe the example file is pkgbuild, .proto. So it's a prototype file. Just copy that over. No, we have to name it. We're going to name it package build. No .proto at the end of this file. So make sure you drop the .proto when you copy it over. So if I do an ls, you see now we have just package build here. And if we open this in Vim, this is the example file. And here is where you would just go through and just plug in everything that you need to change. For example, the name right here, obviously we want to change that. So package name, this will be dmenu -DistroTube-get. And the reason I'm adding a get to the package name is naming conventions for the AUR. If you're using a version control system to install a package such as git, add get to the name. That should be the part of the name. Some other naming conventions, if you were packaging up a binary, it should have -bin as the ending part of the name. You guys have seen some of these naming conventions, I'm sure, installing AUR packages. The next thing I want to add is a version number. dmenu, the current version is 4.9, and that's what I'm going to choose here. We are going to add something to the package version numbers, though, because it's not really going to be dmenu 4.9, right? It's going to be my own personal build of dmenu, and I may be pushing things to it constantly. So we really need the package version number to change, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Some other information we need to figure out. A description for this. I will say this is my personal build of dmenu, patched for. I'm not exactly sure what all patches. I should probably go back to the browser here. Let me go into my dmenu repository here and actually see what patches I added, if I actually have them listed in the repository. I don't, but offhand, off the top of my head, I do know some of what I added. I know I patched it for fonts, centering, borders, and I'll just put etc. at the end. I'm actually not exactly, I added 7 or 8 patches to dmenu, but I couldn't tell you exactly the ones I added off the top of my head. The licensing information, I believe they use the MIT license, the Suckless guys. I believe that's the one they prefer. I should look that up just to make sure. Going back to the browser to suckless.org, here's the license for dmenu. It is the MIT license, so I was correct on that. To save some time on this video, I'm not going to describe exactly what each of these variables that we're defining are. I mean, you have groups, depends, make depends, check depends, opt depends. You really should watch our video, me and Big Pod's video, that very first video we did on how to create a Arch Linux package, because we really go over what each of these lines in the package build cover. But the important ones here are the package version, the package name, of course, the package description, the license that it's licensed under, and then the depends, the make depends. Those are, the dependencies that are needed to make the package. It's important because if your package is dependent on something to build properly and that person doesn't have it on their system, it's not going to build right. So make sure you put the make depends. I know for a fact I'm going to need git as a dependency because we're of course building the package from a git repository. So here in make depends, I'm going to go ahead and add git. Not exactly sure if that really needs to be part of the dependencies here or part of the make dependencies. I'm going to assume it's a make dependency. Depends, I don't know if anything is needed to build dmenu. I do know whatever fonts I have set that are going to be a dependency if you want the correct fonts. I think I set my dmenu build to use fonts that are in the standard Arch repositories, and I could list those as dependencies. I believe I am using ttf-hack, which is in the standard Arch repository, and ttf-joypixels, which is also in the standard Arch repository. And the reason I'm using those is because they're in the standard Arch repositories. They're common fonts. A lot of people use them. Hack is a good monospace terminal font, and joypixels is good for symbols, glyphs, colored emojis. Most of this stuff we can leave blank, but we really need to talk about what the package provides. So when I install this package, what is it providing? Well, that's providing dmenu. And what does it conflict with? It conflicts with dmenu. So if you have the standard dmenu on your system, of course, my build of dmenu is going to conflict with it. It's going to override it. So it's good to put the conflict there. We need to go ahead and put the source here. So I'm going to delete what they have here. The source, in my case, will be get plus, and then $URL. And then that should be wrapped in quotes. Yeah, that looks good there. And then we have a MD5 sum, a checksum here. We can just set that to skip. I won't bother adding any kind of MD5 sum. I noticed I missed a couple of things toward the top that I really need to go back and add. The architecture is very important. So is it x86 64? Is it ARM? What exactly is the architecture for this? I believe all the suckless programs will build for x86 64 and also for i686. It may build correctly on ARM. I'm not sure. I'm not going to list that though. Then we also need to put the URL. So this would be where you could go and find the source code for the project if you wanted to go take a look at it. In my case, it would be over at my GitLab. So gitlab.com/dwt1/dmenu-distrotube.get, I believe would be the URL. Let me double check that, make sure that's correct. Yeah, that's it. And that's really the only thing I think I need to worry about with the top part of the package build, setting all these variables. Maintainer, this comment at the top here, I probably should just go ahead and put my name and email just in case anybody has any issues with this. So, all right, now we should go down to the bottom part of the package build because this is really where things get tricky. So this is where you prepare the package, build the package, run a check on the package, and then actually install the package is kind of what these sections in the prototype package build are, but you don't necessarily have to use all of these sections. As a matter of fact, you probably won't. Most people probably won't need the check section here. Depending on what you're doing, you may not even need the build portion of this package build. It depends on the process of building your piece of software. So if you're building something on your system, for example, if you're compiling something from source and it's a standard, you run configure, make install. That's kind of the process that you would put here. Now, if you go about building your package running some other commands, then obviously that package build is going to have some different stuff here. For this suckless software that I'm packaging, the package build is pretty simple. All it requires is a simple sudo make install to actually build and install the package. So I can delete some of this. I know I'm not going to need the check here at all. So I'm just going to delete those 4 lines here. So let's get rid of that. And for this build of dmenu, I also don't need the prepare section, so you can see what prepare would do. It's cding into a directory, the package name dash version. It would be the name of the directory, and then it's running the patch command because it's patching something. We're not patching anything in our AUR package here. I mean, it's patched, but I've already patched it. The actual package build itself doesn't need to patch anything. So I actually don't need this section, but I will leave it here because I'm going to change the name of this because I need a section that's not here. I'm going to create a section called package version, or PKGVER. And what this is we need to come up with some kind of naming scheme as far as the versions of our packages, because otherwise our package version is always going to be 4.9. And it's not always, it shouldn't be 4.9 because remember, it's pulling this down from my GitLab repository. So say I push a new version of my dmenu that's patched with another patch, or maybe I change some options, some colors or some fonts or something. Well, that version is still going to be 4.9. And when you go to update your AUR packages, you will not get that latest version because according to the AUR, it's still the same package, right? It's still the same version. So we need to make sure every time that there is a another push to my GitLab repository, my dmenu GitLab repository, that the package version actually changes. That way people that have it installed get prompted that there is an update to that package. There are several ways to go about this. One way I found in the Arch Wiki was simply taking the package version 4.9 and then appending it with something, maybe a git revision number or whatever it is that you want to use. But what I did is I found this line here. So what this is going to do is it's going to rename the package version. See, we set the package version up here to 4.9, and then when it runs this, it's going to run this function here, package version. It's going to cd into the package name, and then it's going to print out, and in my case I want it to print out 4.9 dot, and then the letter R for revision, and then I want it to get the revision list from the Git repository. And basically it's going to find a string of numbers and append it to 4.9. That way it's always a new version every time I push to my GitLab. I hope that makes sense. Because if I don't do that, no one's ever going to get a updated version because it will always be 4.9. Unless I take the trouble of manually editing the package build every time I push to my GitLab. Nobody wants to do that. Then the build section. The build section, we just need to cd into a directory. I'm just going to go ahead and specify that the directory is going to be dmenu-distrotube. So it's going to cd into this directory, and then building suckless packages doesn't require a .configure, so I actually don't need that line. So I'll delete that line. We do have to run a make, but I'm going to add run make with a few different arguments though. I'm going to run make with these arguments here just because some of the other suckless builds that I've seen packaged for Arch, they all, for whatever reason, use this. So I'm running make where it's basically telling make where X11 is on the system, where the X11 includes are and the X11 libraries are. And the final thing we need to do is the package section down here. Now this is actually where after you run the make, it actually installs the program. So it builds dmenu in this case, and then where do we want to place, the license and the readme and everything. We need to specify all of that here in this section. And me and BigPod did go over quite a bit of this in the previous video. So again, if you haven't watched that first video, go back and watch it. But basically, this last section, we're cding into the dmenu-distrotube directory that we downloaded from my GitLab. Then we make a new directory on the system. If it doesn't exist, we're going to make a directory in our /opt directory, and that directory is going to be named dmenu-distrotube, or actually it's going to be named dmenu-distrotube-git. It's going to be the package name as it's named in the AUR. Then we copy over some stuff. Then we run the make install, sudo make install basically. But it doesn't need to have a sudo here. It's got the privileges it needs. And then we are going to place the license in the correct directory on the system, which is at /user/share/licenses/name of package. Again, dmenu-distrotube-git. And then we also place a readme on the system. That's going to be placed in /user/share/doc/name of package, dmenu-distrotube-git. Now, I went through this kind of quick. I could check and make sure this builds on the system. So let me write and quit. And I am still in that directory, by the way, my dmenu-distrotube directory. Now that we have the package build, to see if this actually builds correctly, we can run make pkg and give it this flag -si and run that and see if it actually. Yeah, it's building and it's installing. It's asking for the root password, so it's fine. It's letting me know that dmenu-distrotube-git, this new package we just created, is in conflict with standard dmenu that's installed on the system, which is what we wanted it to do. Remember, we put that conflict in the package build, so it's doing everything that it should do. I'm going to click yes. We're going to go ahead and install it. Let's see if dmenu is working on our system. Yeah, this is still dmenu here on my system. You guys can't see the desktop. Let me switch over to the desktop. You can see me, running dmenu here. So dmenu is working just fine from our package build there. So remember, we needed two files basically to place this in the AUR. We have to have a package build and we have to have a source info. So the next thing we want to do is do make pkg and then give it this flag, --print, and the fish shell is nice enough to complete the rest of it for me. So --print source info, and then give it the greater than sign. That's the right pointing chevron. It's basically saying run make package, print source info, and then I want you to take the output and place it in this new file we're creating. The new file should be .sourceinfo, all uppercase, SRCINFO, and the same thing with package build. It's all uppercase. Capital PKGBUILD. So let's go ahead and create the source info. So if I ls, now I have a package build, and then at the top I have .sourceinfo. Those are the two packages we need. We're ready to go. Let's put it in the AUR. I'm going to clear the screen here. I'm going to cd, and I'm going to make a new directory. I'm going to call it a test. I can't create it because it already exists. Well, let's rm-rf the test directory. And then I'm going to make a new test directory. I'm going to cd into the test directory. And the reason I'm going to do this is I'm about to run another git clone, and I just need it somewhere other than my home directory, so I created a new directory to do this. This time I'm going to git clone a repository from the AUR. So let me switch over to the browser before we get started. So those of you that don't already have an account, the first thing you need to do is create an account for the AUR. So you create a username and a password. This is my dashboard basically here in well, actually this is the dashboard. When you first log in, it's going to show me all the packages that I have in the AUR. Currently I have 3 packages. You see st-distrotube-git, dwm-distrotube-git, and my shell color scripts program, which, because it's pulling it down from git, I should have named it -git at the end. I should open up request here and have the good folks that run the AUR actually change that package name for me, because I can't change it myself. And you see, I did that initially because when I first created my DWM and ST packages, I didn't add Git to them, and people were like, well, since you're getting it from Git, you really should have named it like this. So I had to email these guys and ask them to request them to change the package names for me, and they did. So this is my dashboard. You have an account page. If you click on my account, you know, it gives you your username and all this other stuff. It gives you your public key. You have to have an SSH key. I don't mind showing you this because you're only getting about 10% of the key here. It's a much longer key than that. You could change your password. You could also set, you know, what kind of notifications you get. So anytime if somebody comments about one of your packages, you get an email notification, or, you know, anytime there's an update or a change of ownership, you get information or you get notified about that. But let's click on an AUR package, and I'll click on one of mine, but any AUR package. So if you search for anything, typically you see you have the git clone URL, and this git clone URL is not the location to my GitLab. That's the upstream URL. You see, I have the upstream URL. That's the location to my GitLab. This git clone URL is how you get it from a git clone from the Arch repository itself, the Arch user repository. So this is what I need. I need this SSH URL here. Let me switch back over to the terminal. I'm going to paste that SSH URL here. This is not the right package though, right? We are creating a new package, and it's going to be called dmenu-distrotube-git. And we are going to go ahead and clone that repository. And you're going to say, wait, how are you cloning that repository? It doesn't exist. Right, it doesn't exist, but what they're going to do is they're going to create a new empty repository when I clone this. So I'm going to clone into that, and it's going to warn me you have appeared to clone an empty repository. So if I cd now into dmenu-distrotube-git and do an ls, there's nothing here. 2 things need to go in this, and we're done. Remember, we only need 2 files. We need the package build and the .source info. So I need to copy those over. So I'm going to copy from my home directory. I'll go ahead and copy the package build over and name it package build, of course. And then we'll run that same command, except this time we will copy over the source info. Make sure you name it .source info, all capital. And then let's do an ls, and they're the 2 files that we needed. All we need to do is do a commit and a push. So let me go ahead and let's commit, and we'll do initial push. Simple enough. I'm an idiot. We can't commit until we add, so let's commit add. And then let's do the package build and the .source info file. So let's do the git add, and then let's go back and do the git commit and add the message initial push. All right, and then the last thing we need to do, of course, is actually push. It will not ask for a username or password because I'm using SSH keys in the AUR. Remember, I had a SSH key in my account. If I go back to the browser, go back to my dashboard here, remember I have a public SSH key, and of course I have the SSH key on my system here, so no need to add username and password. And that's it. That package is in the AUR right now. Let me clear the screen here, but if I wanted to, I could do a yay -S dmenu-distrotube-git. and it should be there. Yeah, and it is. And it's asking me, do I want to do a clean build or exactly what I want to do? I'll clean build it. Why not? I'll read the diff. Yeah, okay, that's enough of the diff. Let's quit out of that. Let's go ahead and let it install. Although we already know it works because we already installed it from the local package build on my system. This is just taking the package build that we just uploaded to the AUR and doing the same thing. Yeah, and it builds correctly. So if I go back to the browser, of course we already know it's there because we were able to find it with Yay. But if I go back to my account here, or actually my dashboard here, you will see all of my packages. Now there's 4 of them there, including dmenu-distrotube-git. Oh, that was a very cursory look at how you package something for the AUR. Again, if you're confused about how you package a Arch Linux package, check out my previous video that I did with BigPod on just creating the package itself. And then all you need to do is make sure that you have the package build, the source info file, you have an account at the AUR website, and then you just push it. It's really not that hard. Again, the documentation, when you start reading the Arch Wiki documentation on how to do some of this, it's a little confusing, but when you see it in action, it's pretty straightforward. Now, before I go, I do need to thank a few people. I need to thank Michael, Mitchell, Gabe, Chris, Chuck, DJ, Donnie, Dylan, George, Haplo, Nate, LibreQuest, Omri, Paul, Rob, Sean, and Willie, the producers of the show. Without these guys, you wouldn't know how to package something for the AUR. You wouldn't know about it. The show's also brought to you by all these fine ladies and gentlemen because this channel is supported by you guys, the community. It's all my supporters over on Patreon. If you'd like to support my work, consider doing so. You'll find me at DistroTube over on Patreon. All right, guys. Peace.